Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. Today we're exploring the mystical side of life with intuitive medium, channel, and a truth bomb dropper. Amy White. Amy, welcome.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Well, I've had a number of mediums and intuitives on this show. You're the first person who is a truth bomb dropper.
In my own practice, in my own work and exploring my spiritual awakening, my spiritual journey, and my continued evolution, I am often downloaded with little snippets of information that are, you could consider real talk, where it's like, let's explore this. Ideas of being connected, of being in community, of what freedom means, of what it means to connect with your inner wisdom. And I share those snippets of downloads out to the world through these truth bombs. So it's unfiltered, uncensored, real conversation about where I am personally and on my path and on my journey, but also bringing in the collective energy of the moment so that it's often connects so deeply with other people who are reading because they're in that energetic space at the same time. So it's this, I'm being, authentic in the sharing of the information that's coming through, and it's connecting at a level which allows people to go, oh, wow, that hit like a truth bomb. And I can now explore those aspects or those thoughts that maybe I hadn't even considered before.
It's really good to kind of switch that idea in your mind that like a truth bomb has to be confrontational or aggressive. Yeah. It's just the truth.
It's the truth, and it's the truth that often hits and in a way that gives you this like aha, like boom, there it is. Wow, that's something I had never contemplated or thought of or saw in myself, a belief system or even just a way of being without ever questioning like, well, why do I think this way, or what is creating this fear or scarcity or panic in my personal life. So it hits like a bomb, but one that's loving and nurturing and awakening. It awakens the spirit.
I'm blessed to get those kind of download insights as well. And they're usually like very quick, and the information and the knowingness within them, I mean, it can totally shift your mind instantaneously.
Yep, absolutely. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. That's exactly what the truth bombs that I drop are all about.
Now, you're also a channel, and you channel the greater consciousness.
So the greater consciousness is a group of energies that describes themselves as all of the wisdom that ever was, all of the wisdom that will ever be, and all of the wisdom that's here right now in this time and space in every living being. So in essence, the greater consciousness is the connection into the infinite wisdom that's been here forever and will be here forever in each one of us. The greater consciousness really does awakening this inner knowing and connect into the inner knowing of each person who's participating in the session. What it does is it actually then brings up words that speak to feelings that the client might have, or validations of something that they were thinking of, but they hadn't quite formulated or felt the confidence to take the step towards it. And often the greater consciousness will bring up possibilities that the client has yet to consider. So it's really this tuning into and connecting into the inner knowing of each person who's participating in a session, and then allowing that wisdom to come forward in a way that's so gentle and nurturing, just like the truth bomb, that really allows for the path to start to open for the clients to see, oh, I can thrive in spite of or because of circumstances in my life. I can achieve the dreams that I want to achieve just simply by having awareness about belief systems that might be blocking forward motion, or stories that I'm telling myself that are not in my highest good. So that's how the greater consciousness communicates through. You know, one of the big things that the greater consciousness often reminds me of is that we're here in this human experience to have a human experience. And so often in spiritual teachings, we're being taught or encouraged to transcend the human experience for some other higher experience. But what I've been shown over and over is that when you can hold the human experience and the soul experience in the same moment, then you can really come into wholeness. So that's the greater consciousness, is working towards helping to identify that wholeness and that balance point between the two, so that, you know, the client can really move forward in a way that maybe they hadn't considered before. It's really powerful. Yeah.
I think one of the things that you said that's really important is how many people are reaching up for their spirituality instead of bringing their spirituality into their 3D existence. And that's the way the earth is going to change.
Completely. Completely. Yes. In fact, that's one of the biggest messages that I've been getting as I've been doing the channeling work, especially over the last 9 months or so, is that this, I call it personal responsibility, but it's taking the responsibility to tune into our inner knowing, to make our choices, to consume and discern information, to align with what feels best for us, and then to move into the world from that place, as opposed to doing what we're told to do just because we're being told to do it. It's in that space of saying, okay, this information sounds legit or sounds appropriate for me, but let's really tune in and say, can I come into alignment with it? Does it feel truth to me? And if it doesn't, or if I can't, what do I need to do so that I can come into an alignment with an ease and flow way of being, knowing that this is just one option, but not necessarily my option for how I live my life. And what the greater consciousness keeps showing me is that the more we turn inward and really use that inner wisdom that we all have access to, whether we know it at a conscious level or not, and we move into the world like that, the more people that are moving into the world from a place of their personal responsibility for their alignment, that's where the healing happens. Not because everybody's on the same side or the same team or have the same beliefs, but that each person, the more they honor their knowing and then come together in community from that place, that's where change happens. And we're seeing it happening. It is happening already. There isn't like some time or place that we have to wait for external environment to change so that we can be in the space of personal alignment or personal responsibility. It's right here, right now for each of us. And it's happening. We've already hit the tipping point. People are more and more awakening and coming into alignment and listening to the soul pull, the soul calling that they have within them. It's really beautiful.
So I'm curious, Amy. You know, 2020 was a very pivotal year that also provided us all the opportunity to have a little bit of cocooning or that going inside to really find out what was important to us and to choose from there. Do you think that all of that was part of the plan?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that we as a collective, as a global collective, we're on a path of, if you know, like a hamster wheel of doing, striving, driving, becoming, that we were not able to have the whole focus on asking the questions: what's important in my life? How do I want things to feel and look? What kind of community do I want around me? It's like, in a way, globally, we were on this autopilot. And the greater consciousness is shared with me a number of times that societally, like from the collective, we couldn't get from where we were to where we were wanting to be. This isn't something that's happening to us as a collective. This is a result of the collective calling out from their souls, like, I know that life can be more magical, more loving, more nurturing, but I don't know how to get there. Help me get there. Help us get there. And so this shift really has happened for us to explore our inner workings. For some, it was really just a respite, like a pause, a break in the madness, so that there could be a reset for this slow, purposeful unfolding of what life can be like when we become much more thoughtful and purposeful and bring meaning into it, and not just in that old masculine way of just pushing towards whatever that end zone is over and over and over. Yes, I believe that it is absolutely divinely orchestrated, even for those who aren't consciously aware that it is shifting something within them. It's impacting the entire collective, yeah, in magical ways.
I'm curious if the greater consciousness gave you any words of wisdom for people who were triggered by the circumstances in 2020, because there were many, many people that were triggered, shadow parts coming up.
It's part of the human condition. It's part of why we're here, to explore. Often when we're afraid to look inward, we tend to push outward with the way that we react to being triggered. And I like the word triggered here, because I think that we can all, come back into a time and space within us where we can really lean into a trigger point for our path. And the thing that's really interesting is that what this time and space has brought up for the collective is that everyone is really on a very unique path. The pause, this pause here that we experienced in 2020, wasn't so that when we got to the end of whatever it was, that we would all be awake. It was an invitation to awakening. Those that are still pushing against and resisting that tuning into what they know is their truth are just at a place on the path that's more a beginner, that's more at the beginning. And one of my spiritual teachers said to me a very long time ago, you can do it now or you can do it later, but you're going to do it. And I think that is so profound when we think about any time that we're triggered. Because I think about it when I want to just pull the covers over my head and be like, okay, I just want this day to be over and tomorrow we'll try again, is that I know that at some point, this thing that's triggering me, which is a belief system that's far below the outward experience, I know that at some point I'm going to be forced to look at it. I can do it now, or I can do it when my body manifests something that's going to really create a situation for me to have to look at it. And so I generally try to let people know when they are triggered that it's absolutely where they should be. Anytime that we feel what we can deem a negative emotion, it's the opening and the invitation to just explore a little bit more where that emotion is coming from. And here's the thing that's really important for everyone to understand, especially when we talk about this from a spiritual perspective. Not everybody's going to get there. Not everybody's going to get to a place where they're able to look at their own internal stories and beliefs and fears, but they don't all have to. We're not here on this planet to come into this perfect, peaceful alignment. We're here because the contrast is what allows us, if we choose to accept the invitation, to explore these things that we were just talking about. And that's really beautiful. If the goal here in this human experience were to be in a place where everybody was like-minded and there was just peace and love and joy and nothing else, we wouldn't be here. We would be in the non-physical where all of that exists. Here we chose to come for the opportunity to explore the contrast. That's where the juice is. That's where the aliveness is. And yet we have free will to choose whether or not we want to look at it. And some will and some won't.
I love that spiritual teaching. I've often said to people, pay the piper now or pay the piper later with interest.
And it really is. And, and I can speak from personal experience because so many times in my own life, as I was going through dark nights of the soul and crises moments, I just pull the hood over my head, pull the blankets up over me and say, I just don't want to look at this. And then eventually it became too painful to not look at it. So I've learned along the way, I don't have to get to crisis to start to explore some of these inner workings. The other thing that I think is so important is that as humans, right, in this experience, we are going to have layers and layers and layers of things that we can love on and nurture on and heal, for lack of better words, though I tend to stay away from the word heal only because it implies that something's broken or needs to be fixed. But there's more layers to explore and allow to expand our soul here in this life experience than we can get to in the time that we have as humans. And so with that knowing, it kind of opens up this freedom of take it a step at a time, explore as you feel called to, but you're not going to get to an end point until you transition into the non-physical. So it just opens up the space to know you can't do it wrong, and you're not ever going to get it done. It just is going to be this evolutionary time for us all in whatever way we choose it to be here in this life experience. Eventually, we will all have this moment of reckoning where we're going to have to do some kind of exploration to stay healthy in this human experience.
So, Amy, do you think life is more about experiencing or more about learning how to come into alignment with who and what we are in truth?
Yeah, I love that question because I think you can't have one without the other. Really, the experiences, that contrast, the places where we have, both good and bad, how we judge good and bad opportunities in our lives or experiences in our lives, all play a big role in that coming home to our truth and really getting clear about who we are and what we want and how we want to live our lives.
I actually totally agree. It's through our experiences we learn and know ourselves better, right?
Again, we have the opportunity to be very intentional about taking those experiences and using them to move ourselves forward, to expand our awareness, or we can choose to let them, for periods in time, shut us down. Some of the work that I do with caregivers and people who've gone through trauma or crisis is helping to open the gate to the opportunity that when you come through any kind of traumatic experience, you really come to a crossroad where you can let that experience define you, or you can allow that experience to transform you. And when we allow the experience to transform us, life can open up in big ways, in magical ways that we couldn't even contemplate as we were going through the crisis. But there are those who choose to let the experience define them, and that they stay in that place of stuckness for most of their life experience. It's really, again, that's the free will choice we have as humans. And neither is wrong, because even in that place of stuckness, the soul is getting the opportunity to do the evolution that it needs in the life experience. So it doesn't have to be one way or the other. And in fact, as we've talked on this call, many times it's both. It's that stop, it's that being stuck, it's that opening up, it's that taking a step. That's the dance for our whole lives. It's really magical.
So, do you have any tips to help people come more into alignment with their own true self?
It's one of the things that I've learned in my own practice is that the body, the physical body, is the greatest antenna to our inner knowing. And we've been conditioned as a society to disconnect from our bodies. And we don't realize that our body and our soul are one container. And so part of the process, which is so simple, but it's a practice that I do personally every day, is take just a few minutes to come into contact with the physicality, with our physical body. And I do that through breath. I take 5 to 7 deep belly breaths every morning. Even before I do anything, as I'm coming into conscious awareness of being awake and waking up. And after that, I roll out of bed and I put my feet on the floor. And I take just a minute or two to connect into my feet. I am here in this space. I feel all of the areas of my feet on the floor. And it really allows me to come into my physical body in a way that's intentional and purposeful. And then I let myself, as I'm doing that, and as I feel like I'm really present, to set an intention or a number of intentions for the day. And it really can take less than 10 minutes for all of it. But as we learn to come into our physical body, we hear deeper and deeper the whispers and the language of our soul. It's from that place that allows the opening of more and more connection to that inner knowing. But it's like building a muscle. It's not a switch flip. You don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be as present in my body as possible so that I can hear my inner knowing. It's a dance, it's a partnership, it's a relationship. It's like forming any kind of relationship, to be so intentional about the desire to make this connection, and then to really nurture and love on that part of us that is part of us. It's part of the whole, and to create that space for the expansion of that relationship. That it takes time, and it has to be organic. It can't be forced. It's not a doing thing, it's a being thing.
There is a journey of learning the messages and the way your body actually communicates with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually teach a process in my Connecting to Intuition online program, which I call Truth and Lies. And it is the simple practice of coming into a place of contemplation or meditation. It's that being present in the moment right here in your body, and then telling yourself a lie. And I always love to encourage like a big, bold lie, something that your brain can't rationalize, right? Like I tend to just say like, my name is Fred. Like my brain can't say, well, it could be Fred. No, it's a lie. And then I just sit and I see where that sits in my body, and very often for me, like my gut tightens up. I feel a little buzzing in my mouth. I might feel a little twitch in my ears. But I've come into practice of saying, okay, show me where this untruth lives in my body. And then I do the same on the other side, and I tell myself a truth, and I see how that shifts in my body. And for me, I immediately feel my shoulders relax. I feel more space for a deeper breath. And so as we begin to practice that helps us to connect into how our inner knowing starts to contact us and come into contact with us through our physical being. So that we can say, I'm considering this information, but I'm having that same sense in my body where my gut is tightening a little bit, my tongue is buzzing. I want to explore this more because it doesn't feel like a truth to me. And that is your inner being saying, it's time to take a little bit more thoughtfulness about this before you make a decision. Something's not quite in alignment. So that's really the place you start. And it just unfolds from there so organically.
And we all have a body, so we can
Yeah.
all start practicing.
Yeah. And the body doesn't lie. It really doesn't. It's so connected to our truth that when we can listen and when we purposely take the time to listen, we have all of the information that we need.
I totally agree. And I make my decisions by those intuitive hits and the signs that my body and my unconscious mind and my higher self give to me.
Yeah, I love it.
Amy, it's been wonderful having you. Would you like to share your contact information?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. You can reach me on my website at amywhite.co. I'm also on Instagram at mzamywhite, Ms. Amy White. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. All of my social media connections are right there on my website, so you can find it very easily. Right now, I also have a free video series on my website called 2020, The Time of Evolution. And even though it's not, even though you not necessarily have to be in 2020 to understand what the evolution is, it's a really beautiful message from the greater consciousness about the pause and how it's going to ripple out for all of us for years to come. It's not like 2020 is going to end and then magically everything changes. It's the start of a transformation. So it's still valid no matter when someone listens to the video series. It's really powerful.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. Thank you for listening to this episode of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor.fm. Come and visit me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen, 8 tips on how you can start listening to your own inner wisdom. That's it for this week. Bye for now. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. Tell your friends and remember to subscribe.